What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Relentless RC Studio. I'm Ryan. We are here today to finish, finally, yes, that is the word, finish the build on the Trailfinder 2 from RC4WD Drive. So, to give you a heads up for those of you who maybe be watching this one for the first time or haven't seen the other ones, we have pretty much completed the entire chassis. Okay, so this is basically a finished product. Now, I went ahead and installed the transmission along with the transfer case. So both are installed along with the shocks, the axles, as you can see. Everything is kind of buttoned up, okay? So really the last couple steps now as far as completing it and getting it ready for electronics is installing the drive shafts, okay? So with that being said, as you guys, some of you might have saw my last video, I did say originally when I started this build, I said I was going to build it from the factory exactly the way it came, so it was stock. And then in my last video, I strayed away from that and said, you know what, after doing a little bit more research, I've decided against that. I was going to replace one of the stock parts because I felt like it just didn't really hold up to the kind of tough terrain I plan on putting this truck through. So with that being said, I went ahead and got ourselves this product. What this is this is a RC4WD Drive steel Punisher shaft. Now again, guys, the shaft that comes with this truck is a plastic shaft, as it is here. And you know, this is what basically controls the transfer of power from the transfer case, really from the motor and transmission to the axles. And this is plastic, guys, and the metal tops, I mean, I did it for you on camera last time. I mean, you can legitimately just pop these apart on the top, and it's going to happen. If I can do it with my hand, I can promise you on the trail it's going to happen. So now it'll make a liar out of me, but you guys saw it on the last video, so I'm not going to get into it. So instead of this cheap plastic shaft, we went and got ourselves the RC4WD Drive very heavy-duty steel Punisher shafts, okay? So we're going to install these much nicer shafts onto the truck today. So with that being said, when we look in the instructions, very self-explanatory. It basically just says install them with the drive shaft pin. So it shows you the drive shaft. On the next page, page 18, it says install the shafts, you know, one by one, essentially, short shaft, and then with the M3 drive shaft pins, which I do have laying around here somewhere. So without further ado, I'm going to just line them up, and then I'll actually screw them in off camera as the rest of this video is gone. So let's break open our RC4WD Drive steel Punisher shaft. Now remember, guys, if you do decide to go with the upgrade with the Punisher shafts, which I honestly highly recommend for this truck, the shaft sizes aren't different. Now I know they may not be on the stock RC4WD Drive shafts, but in the directions it does say the shorter shaft goes to the front. So you may have a shorter shaft, and that one would go to the front. If you look at these two right now, though, they are the same length. So, you know, we just opened that up fresh out of the box. They're same length. And basically the way you install them is you just set them here and on this side so that they're on and set. And then here and on the back side so that they are on and set. And that's it, guys. I mean, they're basically installed. I mean, all I have to do now is drive these little screws. It's going to take probably 2, I believe, of these drive shaft pins. And now, of course, I'm going to Loctite them because, as anyone who can tell you who's had an RC4WD Drive Trailfinder 2, you're screwing in from metal to metal. So if you're not using a lock nut on the back, you should always use Loctite. So I have my own little bottle of Loctite right here, thread lock. I used a blue. I'm going to go ahead and just button these in quick, and then we're going to move on in the video to talk about a couple other things that we're doing with this truck. So give me a second, let me button this up, and we'll be right back with you. All right, guys, so we went ahead and installed the RC4WD Drive Punisher shafts. So they're here, they're in. They're kind of binding up, which is strange to me, but I guess I'll look at that later on. But they're on. So Punisher shafts are on, drive shafts are on. The next step they're telling us to do is assemble the steering links. So I already kind of went ahead and did this step, and I tell you why. So these are your steering links, these two right here. Let me move this truck out of the way. these are steering links, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of advice. Now, this was something I wasn't going to do on camera or talk about really too much on camera because it's pretty self-explanatory. So you have these little rod ends. You get a set screw that goes into the rod end and then into the actual steering link. Okay, so the only kind of pointer I wanted to give you was that when you're dealing with the set screw, right? If I were to screw the set screw into this side, this is a hollow tube, okay? So the set screw is just going to keep going and going and going and going and going until you lose it. So what I like to do is I like to screw it into the rod end, right? And then just connect it to the rod itself after the fact. So there you go. There's your rod end, already installed and ready to roll. So just a little friendly pointer. You know, it's just something, it's small, but it's something that can help you out a little bit. Not that anyone would lose it, but you never know. So basically going forward now, what the truck is telling us to do is do the fun stuff, right guys? Let's get this thing up and running, and it wants us to install the electronics. So I want to talk a little bit about the electronics and what we did with this particular truck. So, don't mind me while I walk off camera for a moment. So, now this is the part that made me want to build an RC four-wheel drive Trailfinder 2, okay? What I like about this is the idea that you can put in everything you want into this truck, okay? So you can put in your own motor, your own servo, your own ESC, and that's what we did. So I want to go through today and talk a little bit about the parts I've chosen for my build before I install them. So what we have here is a Savox digital SW121 OSG waterproof digital steering servo. Guys, in my opinion, this is the best steering servo on the market today. It's 100% waterproof. It's digital, metal geared. When you look at the weight, the speed, and the torque, it's incredible. 277 kilograms of torque, 0.15 speed, 71 grams. I mean, it's an incredible product. So we will be installing this to do the steering of the RC four-wheel drive Trailfinder 2. As far as a motor goes, I kind of went cheap, but with something that I know is tested and proven. So we went with the RC four-wheel drive 35-turn brushed 540 crawler motor. Again, basic, simple, and I know what you guys are saying, and you know, some of you crawler guys are in there saying, well, you could have done this, you could have done that, you could have got something bigger, you could have, you know, put a Novak system in there, you could have gone brushless, you could have gone 55 turn. I get all that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stick with something simple. I mean, guys, look at the price tag on that, $12.99. If this thing dies, I will replace it for $12.99. To go along with that motor, I went with the AE5 Axial AE5 waterproof ESC. It has forward, it has reverse, it has drag brake. For those of you guys who've been a fan of the channel and followed me, you know I love this thing. I have it in a lot. I even put it in my Vetera Ascender. So I love it, again, just proven to me. And again, cheap. I mean, guys, for $40 you have an ESC. I've looked at combos for crawlers and brushless brush that were $150 to, you know, $250. This combo right here cost me, let's see, $30, $40, $54 for the combo. That's insane. There's nothing about this I can't replace if something goes wrong. Then we have our steering servo, aluminum steering arms. So those are the aluminum arms that will go. Now, again, there's two steering arms, two servo arms, horns, whatever you want to call them. And I'll get to that in a second. And then obviously we have the Spectrum receiver, and that's really just to bind it to my Spectrum controller so that I can drive the truck. Now, I talked about the two servo horns, right? So we have two servo horns. For those of you, again, who don't know a lot about the Trailfinder 2, for this particular truck, you need two servos because it has this two-stage transmission that shifts. You need a second servo to shift the transmission. So I'm just going to use this Tactic metal geared digital servo, steering servo, that actually came from another truck of mine. I, again, like to upgrade and improve my vehicles all the time. And this is just a servo I've replaced in another vehicle. So instead of throwing it out or wasting it and spending more money on another servo, I've decided to recycle it, and I'm going to use it for this product. So that will get mounted. So again, this servo will go to the back, and this will operate the shift arm for the transmission. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start following some instructions. Basically, the next step is going to be to open up and install the digital steering servo, okay? So I'm gonna open this up just because it's beautiful and I feel like you guys should get to see this on camera. This thing is gorgeous, and it's honestly an upgrade I probably put into almost every single vehicle I've ever owned recently, at least in the last few months, and I just love it. Look at how pretty this thing is. I mean, she is a beauty. You know, I love the metal plating. I love this steering servo. So this is gonna actually get mounted to the front of the truck. I'm not quite sure exactly where as of yet, but we'll get there. I'm pretty sure it goes this way and it goes over here. So now one thing to note, and I'm gonna show you guys this on camera so you can see how I did it. So when you look at these servos, you know, this one in particular is calling for us to mount it upside down on the chassis, okay? Now, if you look, it obviously can't sit flush. So when you look at this servo, you'll see this little extra triangular piece in here. I don't know if you can really see that, but this little piece right here, we have to cut that out, okay? In order to get it to sit flush. So really what you do is you just use a sharp knife and you just kind of, I like to just kind of put some pressure behind it and just trim that off like that. And you know, I'll continue to work on this off camera because it's a little hard to film it, but I mean, you're just taking it off. I like to use just a sharp blade. Some of you guys will probably use a Dremel. I have a Dremel. For something so simplistic, I didn't feel the need to use it. But, so I'll get that all trimmed off and shaved off, and then it'll mount flush the way it's supposed to. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'm going to actually go ahead and button this up, and then I'll do a review of it once everything is installed. For those of you who are not familiar with how to install electronics, I'll go through step by step and kind of show you what we're all installing and how to do it all as we go forward, okay? So that's it for me right now. Thanks guys for watching. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to type comments in. Please subscribe. You're gonna wanna see this thing finished, and honestly, you're gonna wanna see a couple of the other things. I have an unboxing coming up very soon that I think is gonna knock some people's socks off. It's an incredible vehicle. We'll get on that pretty quick. But yeah, just hit the subscribe button, and thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys soon.